Welcome to the Providence College Podcast. My name is Joe Carr. Our producer today is Chris Judge. Today's guest is PC Athletic Director Steve Napolillo. While new on this job, Steve succeeded Bob Driscoll on July 1st. He has been a Friartown fixture since 2004, serving in a variety of roles, including Senior Associate AD for External Relations since 2014. No less an authority than Bob Driscoll himself called Steve the perfect successor, saying so much of what we've been able to accomplish has been due to the hard work and dedication of Steve. He has spent so many years in service to the college that he brings an overwhelming amount of knowledge and experience to the position. I'm confident that he'll have a long and productive tenure leading the athletic department. So, Steve, no pressure. Thanks for joining us.
Joe, thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
What have the first few weeks on the job been like for you? Any surprises?
Just first off, to be able to follow Bob's been an incredible journey. I'm grateful. But the first month has really been, as you're getting into a new role, is listening. I've been meeting with as many people as possible, both internally, externally, and fellow athletic directors, both locally and nationally, to really, as they've gone through it, things to really ask, things to look for. And, when you go to the big chair I know so many people here, but it is a different view because you're making decisions where before you were giving advice and, someone else had the final say. And now as you're going through the process, you have to make the final decision. So it's been exciting. I love walking around. I love hearing from so many people throughout the Friar community. And it's just I always say it's like when you talk about the formula for a Coke or Dell's Lemonade, people don't know what the formula is, but it's special. That's Providence College. There's an amazing formula that makes PC special. You don't know exactly what it is. You don't know exactly how to say it, but it's just a special place.
Yeah, there's sort of two ways to come into a job like this, through the ranks or from outside. I suppose each could have its advantages, but when you're trying to identify that formula, at least you have a sense of what it is because you've been part of it, right?
Well, I think that's really well said. I think there's positive and negatives to both, right? People know your strengths and weaknesses, and you know their strengths and weaknesses. And what I've said to the team is, all of us have to have a first day attitude. Is one of the things that coming in as an internal candidate, you can hit the ground running. You have the relationships built. You know where you need to go. I have a vision. I keep always saying is my platform every day for everyone who's part of this is purpose with passion. I want everybody to wake up. I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if you're an administrator, student athlete. I want everyone to wake up every day with a purpose. I think, when you look at what everyone's had to go through with the pandemic, people have taken a toll mentally, physically, and just trying to find where they fit in. And, the holistic approach for me as a leader is to really look at it so everyone wakes up and has a purpose. They're trying to achieve it. So when they go to bed at night, they feel good. And if they can impact one other person and impact one other goal we're trying to achieve, we're going to be really successful here.
And when we think about sports, we think about the seasons and the kind of cycle of preparation. Purpose and passion have to be part of that, but it's really underway. As we look around the campus, there's student athletes here. I think many fans probably don't really understand or realize what happens during the summer. Can you give us kind of a thumbnail sketch of what's going on to get ready for the seasons in various sports?
Well, the coaches and I always laugh when you see somebody say, hey, do you guys get the whole summer off? And but these jobs are 24/7, and from the coaches, administrators, you're planning continually on how to succeed, both scheduling, both sports nutrition, strength and conditioning, getting ready for preseasons, from its, rooming, from food, from travel. These go on. And Joe, as you said, our kids have been here. Summer school's been going on, double sessions. A lot of the kids, like our basketball programs, today's their last day where they get to go home for 3 weeks. They've been here all summer for double sessions with both summer school and working out. But our soccer programs are here, our field hockey programs, our volleyballs, our hockey programs. So it really is, full go. And to be great, you have to be committed all the time. And what these student athletes do to be successful, what our coaches do. It really is amazing to watch, but that's why we take so much pride. That's why we're so grateful to our supporters who give us the resources to be able to provide summer school and the support to be successful. So it really is amazing to watch from the inside, and hopefully the results when the seasons come, all that hard work you put in the summer, it's shown at the end of the year.
From a men's basketball perspective, I think fans will always remember the summer of 2022 because of what happened in late July, and that was the Friends of Friar basketball series of events that brought together players, coaches, staff members, and fans, focusing in particular on the 1987 and 1997 teams. How did that come about, and what were some of the highlights from your perspective?
I give Harold Starks a lot of credit. The Friends of Friar basketball is something they started over 10 years ago. And he had been talking about, for a 10-year anniversary, doing something special for the 97 and 87 Final Four teams, as it was their 35th and 25th anniversary. And what was unique is that group, when it first started, and I give Coach Cooley a lot of credit because as he's built a really successful program, you can see the former players getting great pride of coming back and wanting to be part of the Friar family again, saying they wore the Friar jersey. And as Harold and I had conversations, I think what was unique about it was coming together both with the partnership of the school and the hard work that Harold, Ryan Ford, Quentin Buckner put together to get over 150 players and coaches to come back. That was really going to be a player and coaches event. And when we talked about, hey, we got to put something where the community, the fans can hear that. And, I could listen to Coach Patino, Billy Donovan, and Coach Gillen. As you can see, those guys were incredible to listen to. And when you think about the legacy and the people who have been part of the Friar family, and now with Coach Cooley, following Coach Welsh, who was there, it's really, really special. And I love that stuff. And I think as we move forward, it's really, Joe, I think if you heard my opening remarks, doesn't matter when you played, doesn't matter who you played for, how many minutes you played, how many points you scored. Once you wear that jersey, you're part of a Friar family. And we'll fight, like I said, Italian families fight, I know better than ever, but, your family, you get through it, and this will always be home for everyone. What's
the kind of long-term value of something like an event like that? What can be sort of the implications as we look forward?
Well, I don't care any sport, but, that was all the men's and women's basketball players were invited to come back. Was our current players were there, so it shows them you're part of a fraternity forever. And this is your family. Doesn't matter if you played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, or today. You are part of something bigger than you can even comprehend. So that when you wear that jersey, take great pride in it, and know that you're representing hundreds of people who came before you, and hundreds of people will follow you. And I think that's really powerful, Joe. And when you see the successful people who have gone on, I grew up a huge Billy Donovan fan. I'll never forget, I met Billy Donovan at St. Joseph's Church. Dave Lucy was a season ticket holder. He took him to Mass on Sunday, and I got to take a picture with him, Coach Donovan, and Pop Lewis. And I was like in awe. And, I had grown up. My dad was a huge Friar fan, and he took me to my first game when I was 8 years old, and I was addicted since then. And, I wanted to be Billy Donovan, and those dreams crashed really early. As, Coach Judge can tell you here, is I could shoot the lights out, but I always tell people if I could run, jump, and had any athleticism, I'd be a D1 basketball player. But I was just missing those three key ingredients. But, Providence College basketball really makes fans from a young age. And, I think last year going to the game, seeing the dunk throughout, I don't care if you're at the dunk, you're at Schneider, Alumni Hall, Anderson Field, is you look at all the young people who are becoming Friar fans. To me, that's really, really special. And that's the next generation who you want coming to Providence College, applying, being students, the great fans, become our season ticket holders, and really carry on the tradition of what makes Providence College and Providence College athletics really special.
And you can see that from a number of angles. Your own experience, you have young children, so does Chris, by the way, living in Rhode Island. So do you see an opportunity here to take purposeful measures to do specific kinds of things to build on that enthusiasm with young people?
Oh, we're going to be relaunching a whole new kids club this year, Joe. We've got new Huxley animations coming, and I'm really excited. As Chris knows, my kids love sports, and Drew's 10 now, and he's done more in Friartown than I've ever done. But it's really great to see as a parent how excited they get, when you see them at the game or watching the games or when they're walking on campus, and he loves wearing Friar gear. So I think, it really is special. It starts at a young age, and that affinity to the PC logo and the PC gear and, the student athletes and the coaches. It's something when you start young, they're hooked. So it impacts everything, because many of those kids might not be able to play here, but they want to be Friars and come here to school. And that's, as you see, Providence College is a special place and a great academic institution. So it's really the holistic approach of what PC athletics means.
So you graduated from PC in the class of 1998. Think about when you were a student. Who were some of the people who influenced you during those 4 years?
Well, it's funny. Chris and I talk about it all the time, and Chris had an opportunity to play tennis for a little while. And when you get here, anyone who played sports, you always want to continue. And even as we laugh, as the guys, the intramural programs, when you're not good enough, you grow. But I was lucky enough when I was here, as my junior year, we went to the Elite Eight. And when you think about the gods, Sham Gods, who I have an unbelievable friendship with now, and the Austin Crociers, to get to experience that ride as a junior in college truly was one of the most amazing things. And people always say, what was special last year for you? To be able to see the amazing experience the students had at the dunk every night. They'll remember that forever, and they'll be hooked as Friar fans. And when you think about the multiplier, for me, I always tell them that's critical for institutions, because it gets our graduates excited about being alums. Hopefully they'll want to give back so we can continue the great tradition. And I don't care what you want to give back to, if it's scholarship, if it's building, if it's the annual fund, if it's athletics. As long as you feel great about your experience and you want to give back to this great institution, you will help us continue to keep striving to be the best we can be in the country.
So you majored in political science. So did I, 15 years ahead of you. So why political science?
Well, I'm going to, people always tell me is Joe, I don't know if you remember this. I wanted to go to law school and be the next Jerry Maguire. When I was in college, that was
Perry Mason in my case, but same idea. Yeah.
When I was, and what's unique is what I tell all the students and student athletes that are here now who come and see me is really make sure you take the time to either do an internship or try to, if you have a love. So I went and worked for a lawyer for a summer and absolutely hated it. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if this is where I want to go in my next stage, but it was great because if I hadn't done that and gone through the whole process of going to law school, I switched and I went and worked for Channel 12 Sports for 2 years, and I wanted to be a news anchor. And at that time, it was really the career industry. You were getting a lot of former great athletes, and my father used to always say, he's like, Steve, you have a lot of gifts, but your looks and being a great athlete isn't one of them. So really think about where you want to go. So my junior and senior year, I went and spent time with Lou Schweckheimer at the Pawtucket Red Sox, and he let me intern there my junior and senior year, and I absolutely loved it. As Chris can tell you, I'm one of the biggest baseball guys in the world. That was my love playing growing up, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was where I wanted to be. And I was trying to decide between going to law school and they said, hey, listen, we're going to be doing a $25 million renovation at McCoy. We want you to stay on. You can be one of our best salesmen. We want you to redo our whole merchandising. We want to build a store. We want you to sell billboards. So, and I did that for several years. And, I was blessed to be one of those guys to be able to say I worked for two of the greatest places in Rhode Island when you think about it. And, I've learned a lot in my career because I got to learn how to be part of a really successful baseball organization. Back in the early 2000s, Pawtucket Red Sox were considered the best baseball organization in the country. Both what they were doing in attendance, both merchandising, concessions, to be able to learn under Lou Schweckheimer, who was an unbelievable visionary. And then to come and work under Bob Driscoll, I've been really, really lucky. And to be able to sit here and to say I'm the athletic director now at Providence College, it really is a great story for a lot of young people out there that, I always say maximize your strengths, limit your weaknesses, but you have to go out there and try to open as many doors as possible because you never know where it's going to take you.
You definitely moved us from political science back to sports. I think you were afraid I was going to ask you about like John Locke or the Electoral College or something like that. Is that right?
Well, I've always been a big, I loved history and I loved, learning about our political system. And I think today you're afraid to talk politics with anybody, right, Joe. So it's
absolutely.
But it is. I did love learning that, and I still and you laugh is. Getting my law degree was always something I would love to do and has always interested me. Just unfortunately, as with time and but I love learning about history and law. I think it's always been a really fascinating subject that I've always been attracted to.
And by the way, we had great professors in political science, probably certainly many of the same ones, despite the 15-year gap. But I'm thinking of Mark Hyde, Jim Carlson, Bob Trudeau, Bill Hudson,
Dr. Romans,
Dr. Neil Romans.
And
I didn't have him, but I know him, so he's good.
He was phenomenal when I see him now. And the funny part about Dr. Hyde and Dr. Camerano is Dr. Romans. These guys were all huge baseball fans too. So when I got the job with the Paw Sox, they'd call me. So it's a real special family because when you talk about all these names that come back to you and how they impacted your life, I always tell everybody, people impact your life in so many ways. You might not realize it in the moment, but when you take a step back and look at where you are and where you're going, really, truly appreciate the relationships you have.
By the way, Professor Hudson has his own podcast called Beyond Your Newsfeed, and it's excellent. So a tip for podcast fans out there if you're interested in PC political science professors. But anyway, back to the Steve Napolillo discussion. How did you become connected with Bob Driscoll? And what was his impact? You brushed up against his impact on you.
Well, it's interesting. I was at the Paw Sox, and I was getting down on kind of where Providence College was. If you looked at from a global standpoint, you could kind of see they were falling back. The facilities were really at a Division III level.
What's the time frame here?
The time frame was like, I would say in the early, probably around 2000, to be honest with you. If you remember .coms, schools were raising money like crazy, and PC really hadn't found their niche in that manner, even on the athletic side. I think at that time, being in school, coming off the Elite Eight, then trying to get back, you were trying to see, all right, how is PC going to make the next step of investments? And when they hired Bob Driscoll, I came to his press conference, and he was like, you saw this guy from California, unbelievable energy. I like that. That's how I live my life. I'm attracted to energy. And I was like, oh, this guy's going to be great for Providence College. So I just reached out to him. I said, hey, Bob, love to get together. I was really excited to hear your vision, love your energy, love what you want to do for Providence College. And we met for lunch at Aqua Viva on Federal Hill, Joe. And this was probably in 2002. And, 3-hour lunch, it was awesome. We just talked about, where PC was, where PC needed to be. He kind of talked to me about what I like to do. And I can remember vividly, Joe, him saying to him at the time, PC was raising about $300,000 annually in athletics. And he's like, we got to get this to $1 million, $3 million, $5 million. He's like, I'm going to need people to really come on and, help me achieve these goals. And I was thinking, do I want to get in fundraising? I love selling billboards and and I'll never forget, I went, I'm really close to my father and he's a huge sports guy. And I said, Dad, I met with Bob Driscoll. These are his things. I'm not sure if fundraising is where I want to go. It's a different ask. And he said, what are they doing now? And I said, 3. He goes, well, even you can't screw that up. He's like, so it wouldn't be a bad thing to go into and give it a chance. And I always laugh. We laugh about it now, but I give, Bob Friar and the Office of Institution a lot of credit because Bob Driscoll said, hey, get your feet wet, learn the business. And Joe Brum was still running that shop at the time. And, guys who took over from Bill Eustace and Dave Wesen, they all gave me a great opportunity to learn from them, the fundraising business, and to grow from there. And, it's kind of, I love selling the story of PC and asking people to commit, invest into it. Because I always say, you're not, people always tell me is like, how'd you get in? what's your key to success in fundraising? It's like anything. You have to give people a vision, a belief that what they're investing in is going to grow and be great. It's like if I'm asking you to, buy a stock, you're not going to, give money to a stock that's going to crash. It's, hey, this stock's going to grow, and when you look at it, you're going to be really proud you're part of it. And that's always been my belief and my whole pitch to people is, hey, you invest in us, and this is what we want to give, so that when you're looking at Providence College and the students and student athletes that you are impacting, you're going to do it a smile and say, yeah, I helped that happen.
So the foundation's obviously strong as you come into this job, but time marches on, so things keep coming at us. What are the top few things on your to-do list?
Well, Bob and I always laugh. I always tell Bob every day when we talk a lot, and I say, Bob, I want to thank you for inflation, name, image, and likeness. Your parting gifts for me have been strong. But I look at, I'm a guy, Joe, who looks at, with great challenges come great opportunities. And college athletics has faced a lot of challenges over the last 50 years, and we're in one right now. This is a, name, image, and likeness for my tenure of where we are as an institution. We have to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to do it the right way, which we will, but to do it in a way where we will help our programs be successful. And that starts with men's basketball. We as an institution, as a member of the Big East, globally and holistically for our whole department, have to make sure men's basketball is successful. You saw the impact it had last year. When we're running and we're doing really well, it helps everything we do. And my goal as the athletic director is to make sure that I'm doing my job as the leader to make sure all of our programs, we have great coaches, we retain, reward, and develop the best people we have, so our student athletes are learning from the best. Mental health support is huge for me. Obviously, the last 3 years have been extremely difficult, COVID. Make sure we're giving our student athletes the resources to deal with that, to be successful both as students, both in the classroom, on the field of play, and in the community. And thirdly, make sure we're moving on holistically, Joe, from what are the things we need to continue to grow. Is like you laugh, is if it's adding programs, if it's adding a field house on campus, so when the winter months our student athletes have somewhere to go play and not have to take them all over the state in different areas. If it's adding scholarship, it's, endowing things. Our goal as an institution, Father Sicard's goal, he'll tell you, is wanted to get to $1 billion endowment. How do we help that on the athletic side? That's something I'm very passionate about. It never ends, Joe. The list is long, but I'm excited. I love challenges, and I tell my team is like, listen, our goal is together we can really help our student athletes. We can really help be a vital member of the Big East and Hockey East conferences. And we want to compete for Big East, Hockey East, and national championships. And we're not afraid to say that. How do we do it? What's the formula? The sports that we've been struggling or not successful in, what do we do to help turn those around? So the list is long, but it's something I'm really excited to tackle. And as you know, is you never arrive. Fear, complacency every day. Make sure every day you tell your people, even many people forget yesterday. So how do you make sure you're looking towards competing at the highest level and having that hunger that drives you every day?
NIL, name, image, and likeness, is fascinating. It kind of dropped out of the sky. And then last year we had this season where it was in place, but kind of a little bit, I suppose, disorganized. People didn't really understand what it was. Now we're sort of, in some sense, now we're at a stage where colleges are getting organized around it and taking meaningful steps to try to deal with it in the proper ways. For a place like PC, where we have high ideals and a commitment to integrity, what are some of the challenges and opportunities and considerations as you figure this out?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is you can't run, the word going around, the collectives.
Right. So,
there will be a Friar collective that a third party will be announcing come September 1. But the challenges, I think, in the landscape of college athletics, Joe, is everything was regulated so much, and now you're going into complete almost deregulation with no guidelines for everyone. And I think what I've said to Father Sicard, our board of trustees, is we're going to do this the right way. We're going to make sure that the landscape we have to compete in, we will do it to be successful. but we're going to do it in a way that maybe other schools don't follow. But we're going to make sure that we give Coach Cooley and all our other coaches the opportunity to be able to recruit the best talent, retain the best talent, and make sure that our parties who take on these challenges know what our commitment is and our guidelines are. But it is, Joe, when you say that, I always tell people it's an amazing when they tell you, well, this is the way it's going to work, but a third party has to run it, and you can't be, think about it. It's just, I always say there's a lack of common sense in the world right now, and I'm not afraid to say this is one that's challenging us right now. So it is a unique time period.
The other sort of part of the earthquake that's shaking college sports is conference realignment, more affecting football conferences and schools. But do you think the Big East is well positioned to move forward in this environment?
Well, I think twofold, Joe, is, conference realignment really has been football driven. If you look at it, you talk about common sense, UCLA and USC going to, where they're going to have to fly 3 time zones for a lot of their sports
to
teams.
Play Rutgers, right?
Does that make any sense? But it's a financially driven decision. And, that's when people say to me is like when I have conversations about, well, you care about men's basketball. We all have to care about men's basketball. That's the challenge of what we're doing here. In the Big East is in a great position because we know who we are, where we want to go. I think when you look at what the challenge is, Joe, is as we work on our next television contract, which Val Ackerman and all of us in the Big East Fox Sports has been an incredible partner, but when you look at the Big Ten, is they're going to sign $1 billion contract where every school gets $100 million a year, right? Is how do you, as right now, when we sign a deal that every school in the Big East gets $4 million a year, you're still competing against those schools. So how do you navigate in that world knowing that those schools are going to have those resources and you have to work within these resources? But what I always say to our coaches and our administrators is having the most money doesn't always guarantee success. I mean, you can look at a lot of the big football schools have poured in a ton of money, and I don't want to highlight them, but there's they've struggled. So you have to make sure you are doing what's best for your institution to be successful and maximizing the resources you have. And I think we've done a really good job with that at PC, and we have to continue to do that at the next level.
It's important when we talk about the Big East that we also always remember and acknowledge that, very importantly, PC participates in Hockey East too, so we don't want to forget that. But I imagine you look at it similarly. It's a niche.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part is, Hockey East is one of the premier leagues in all the country for hockey. We say that. I think from a resource standpoint, you're talking about conference realignment because of television contracts. That hasn't impacted hockey in that sense. But we're committed, and we have, obviously, excited to keep Coach Lehman here. Obviously, one of the best coaches in the country. We have one of the best programs, best coaches, best rinks. So, our goal is to always compete for Hockey East and national championships. That's his goal, our goal, and we have the resources, we have the people in place, and we're really excited about the upcoming season.
A real record of sustainable, consistent success. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, it really is. I think when you look at, I always say it's a beautiful thing when your expectation is to compete at that level every year. You have what it takes and you're doing the right things.
So nobody knows Friar fans better than you do. What is it that makes PC's supporters special?
They love this place, the passion, the affinity they have for it. And I mean, wherever I go, it doesn't matter. My wife laughs if we're at the beach, at the market. People just want to talk about PC. It's truly something they take pride in. It's a fabric of the community. It's a fabric of Rhode Island. And what I really get excited is I just had to fly out to D.C. to meet with a donor last week, and I had my Friar hat on. And, wherever I go, Friars, wherever you are, as I was in Disney World with the family, and you're walking around and people giving you the Go Friars. It's really taken hold. One of the coolest things, Coach Cooley and I had to fly down to Florida to meet with a large donor, and we're at a golf course, and we walk on, and Larry Fitzgerald, the great receiver, comes right over and goes, "Coach Cooley, I'm a big fan." And when you think,
wow,
one of the biggest NFL stars he knows who Coach Cooley is. He went to Pitt, and he was telling Coach. And I think that's when you really take a moment back and say, this is a special place. And, we're in it every day. You can kind of lose that. And I tell our student athletes, I talked to our women's soccer team this week. They just got back, and I said, You're part of the 1%. There's so many kids out there who would love to have the seat you're in. But when you're in it, you can lose that. And I think all of us sometimes is when you can go down and just see the passion of our fans, and you go to a sold-out Dunk, a sold-out Schneider game, and when UConn comes in for women's basketball and the place is packed. I think what we all have to realize, and I take a step back, I'm so grateful for the generosity, the support, the passion that so many alums and Subway fans who might not have gone here but grew up on PC and love this place. I can't say thank you enough to those people, because without them, we couldn't do what we do.
What are you looking forward to most in the upcoming seasons? We sit here in the early part of August.
Well, I'm excited to work with Father Sakar, the cabinet, our board of trustees, and really setting out our vision for the next 5 to 10 years of how we're going to be great. I think, Father Sakar has some unbelievable plans for the school holistically, with the new nursing school and the things he wants to get done under his leadership. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to working with my coaches. We have some great things that we want to accomplish. But most of all, I'm really, really committed to impacting the lives of our student athletes. I want to have them, when they come into Providence College, that they feel like they've been holistically impacted in positive ways as a student athlete, and as a person. I really hope when they leave here, they feel good about themselves, they feel good about being a Friar, and that they want to make a difference in whatever career that they go into.
This has been fun, Steve. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. We should do this regularly. And thank you for bringing purpose and passion to talking with us and sharing your story with the PC fans who are all rooting for you.
Well, I appreciate everything you and Chris and so many at PC do for the Friar family, and I'm fired up. Thank you to everybody out there. Can't wait to see them at the games, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have our challenges. We're going to have our good days. We'll have our bad days. But like I tell everybody, the bad days make you really appreciate the good days, and when you're working together, there'll be a lot more good days than bad days. So purpose with passion. Go Friars.
Nicely said. Thank you. And listeners, thank you for joining us for the Providence College podcast. All episodes are available on podcast apps, PC's news webpage, and the college's YouTube channel. For Chris Judge, I'm Joe Carr. Until next time.